Today, I am really happy to be joined by a good friend of mine, Mungo, who's going to talk to us today on our regular walk and talk session from Simple Preacher Studios, anywhere, anyhow, anytime. Mungo, how are you?
Very well. Good morning, Andrew. Yeah, very well indeed. Thank you. Thank you for asking me to join you.
And I can see it's sunny where you are, it's sunny where I am, which is a real blessing because it has rained every day for the last 5 months.
Yes, it's well, in fact, even yesterday we had hail
Yes.
on and off, which freaked my new puppy out. But there you go.
Look, Mungo, talk to me about, this is about spirituality or lack of spirituality or whatever that means to individuals, how it appears in their lives or doesn't appear in their lives. Talk to me about your life growing up, because I know your dad was interesting and he had, I would call him a seeker. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, sure. So in terms of sort of spirituality, and I appreciate it is spirituality rather than religion, but they can often, or certainly for me, there can be a sort of crossover. So growing up as a family, there was no sort of call to any particular religion. There was no going to church outside of a carol service. But at school, we went every single day of the week. So that, if anything, right up until I went to sixth form college, that was the case, and twice on Sundays. And if anything,
Hardcore.
yeah, yeah.
I had the same. I had the same.
And then
I still
I
got the
remember
wounds.
I remember wanting to be confirmed because everyone else was confirmed. And so I kind of put my hand up. And then about a week or two before the confirmation ceremony, the teachers running it said, it's come to our attention that there are some of you here who may not have actually been christened, and you can't be confirmed unless you've been christened. And I was like, that'll be me then. So I had that sort of slightly strange experience of being christened where you're taller than the vicar, um, rather than being sort of, gently cradled into the water. It was kind of like, and up again. So, that takes me to 16, where as I said, there was no sort of overt, kind of religion with a capital R, but it was at that time, age 16, 17, my parents divorced, and my dad, who, as a gay man, sort of trapped in a world that he couldn't feel he could kind of speak out. Once when they did divorce, he retreated. Basically, he needed, I think, time to kind of work out who he really was and where he was in the greater scheme of things. And he withdrew, if you like, in Rome, in the Vatican, he basically lived a sort of monastic Catholic monk life for about 6 months, if not more. And he officially, because he's recently passed away, and we found some paperwork that actually, if that's the right word, where he was sort of officially kind of, I'm going to say, I'm using all the wrong words, but kind of officially a Catholic. So and recognized by the Catholic Church as a Catholic. And but he didn't then go on to immediately to pursue that. He came back. He tried various things, and then he headed off to Africa, working, setting up a trust, or managing a sort of charitable trust, giving opportunities for Westerners to experience some time in Africa, working on various different projects in Bamako, in Mali, in Ghana as well, and Morocco. But I think he, in his later life, yes, and this goes hand in hand with my brother becoming a Buddhist monk. He did a Buddhism module as part of a psychology degree at Newcastle, and immediately after that went and worked for an NGO in Nepal, and very quickly sort of found himself very much sort of engrossed and immersed in the Tibetan culture, and very much wanted to kind of pursue that learnings and insights, and that sort of monk life, and is a fully robed Tibetan monk. And I think that opened up all of our eyes in the family to a way of life that didn't sit alongside the more established religions. It wasn't as if he'd become a priest or a cardinal or mind you, wouldn't go straight to cardinal, but it was, so it didn't appear, and he didn't come into the house with that sort of persona that I think of which we were used to, in the sense of being at school and going to church.
Yeah.
And I think we were more open to it and less sort of like, what on earth have you done? There was a little
How
bit.
did that sort of, when that happened in the family, and people I've spoken to in the past, it's a well used and overused word. It gets misused an awful lot. But the people that I've spoken to so far, this word trauma, a life event has happened, something, and certainly with your father, it's easy to, I would say, trace that to a life event of being a gay man, living not in union with himself and his heart, living a lie. And your brother, was there any sort of?
I don't think there was, and but the reason I sound somewhat hesitant, I think Barnaby, my brother, was certainly he was certainly, I think, affected more by the divorce than the rest of us, simply because he was the youngest and still at home. And so I think had to sort of live with the fallout of that face to face more so than myself and my other brother. And I think he had quite, I don't know. He was quite serious. And then he wasn't. He kind of went through university and kind of embraced that whole lifestyle. And I don't really know. I mean, certainly no, there was not an event that you could point to from which, or it was the sort of jumping off point. But we were, as a family, he's been a monk, as in he was a fully robed Tibetan monk. Then he derobed and married an American woman. And so unfortunately, that marriage did not work out. And then he re-robed. And I would say that the first sort of period of phase of being a monk, he went at it hell for leather, even to the point where he was being advised to slow down, and meditating for upwards of 20 hours a day is not necessarily, you've got to build up to these things. And equally, as a family, I think we were quite cynical. We embraced it to start with, but when he would come over and he would talk very quietly, and it was like, you couldn't really make a noise around him. And ironically, it all became about him, and he did nothing to really kind of alter that. And we'd have conversations. I'd be like, it's as if you're on a radio station, Barnaby, and you're doing your show, as in everything that you're doing, you tell us, is for everybody else, is not just for you, it's for others as well. But none of us have actually managed to tune the radio in to hear your show. So you can do all your chanting and do all your whatevers all day long, but if we're not hearing it, then is there an argument to suggest that it's all a bit self-indulgent? And that was very much where we were at that point. When he re-robed and rejoined, it was as a very different person, because he was, I think, a part of it was being older. He'd had that life experience of sadly, the marriage didn't work out, but he'd been a lay person for quite a period of time, worked, whatever it was. Now he is hilarious. He follows the football. You know, we'll sit and watch an episode of Big Bang Theory. Yeah, and I don't mean that, you know, oh, well done, Barnaby, for climbing down to our level of
Yes.
popularist, disposable trash telly and, you know,
And he
scores on the
probably
board.
masturbates.
Yeah. But at the same time, what that did was unlock a greater understanding or a willingness on our part as a family to kind of listen to what, you know, what it was about for him. And it's just rather sort of in the last couple of years, family have gone through a number of you know, challenges, as families do. And Barnaby has been this extraordinary resilient tower of strength for the entire family, because he brings, I'm not saying it's unique, but he brings a blend of his faith, of his spirituality, of his journey, his belief system, with years as working as a psychologist. And that is quite a heady combination when looking to at times mediate within the family over certain things. But more than anything, just finding finding that pathway, you know, looking at things from a viewpoint and a standpoint that gets lost to the, well,
Yes.
I can only speak for my family. When you're in the eye of it, it's just there is a wisdom, and it comes from that place of where we all sit within the bigger scheme of things. That doesn't mean to belittle the problem in hand, but it just puts critically right off the bat some perspective on everything.
It's interesting that you use that word wisdom, and I was talking to somebody the other day, and they say the definition of wisdom is emotional intelligence with combined with love, universal love. And I think what you're talking about there in terms of, I know you're a family man, and your children are at various stages in their lives, and and I think applying wisdom to our lives, I think that's, as we get older, as families develop, as we develop, we get to a point where, certainly for me, I had to look for some wisdom, which meant understanding and getting some emotional intelligence, and not just ragged around by, the normal. He said that, you said this, she did that, I did that, and as you're saying, your brother applying wisdom to situations sort of drags you all along, I guess.
It totally does. And I think what you said there, Andrew, again, emotional intelligence and love. And one thing that's abundantly clear with Barnaby, I have someone at the door, Andrew.
We were just getting to the nitty-gritty.
Well, to go back, what I was kind of honing in on was that sense of with love, and Barnaby brings that, but it's there's I don't mean necessarily. Yes, he loves his family. Yes, we love him. He's part of our family, but it's a bigger love than that. It's a greater love. It's more of an energy that acts as a sort of baseline. So when you sit and speak with him, I don't know, it feels like you're inside something little bubble for the duration time where things are inherently calmer, and you kind of accept. You're in a more accepting space. So again, to your point about what he said and she said and that happened, yeah, okay, those things happened. So we can continue to let everybody know that our memories are good by going, yeah, but they said that. Yeah, but they said that. Well done. We know that. But let's look at things, again, it comes back to that sense of perspective. But let's have an honest conversation, but let's do it from a place of love. Let's do it from a place of, remembering that we are, there are bigger forces at play. And that, I think, helps to put some guardrails around certain conversations, which make them in turn and in themselves more productive. So
Absolutely.
we've all benefited from bonding. And I would say that, all of us, my mum, who's 84, my father, before he passed away, have and continue to get a lot from Barnaby, and has opened our eyes. So, we do. I'm not saying that we all now, I'm afraid I will still squash a big spider if it runs across my bath or whatever. But, we're not all, haven't had some sort of road to Damascus, personality changes, but we're all a little bit more open-minded,
Yes.
a bit more willing to listen to others, to appreciate. And there's that expression, isn't there? It's the ability to recognize our part in things and to go, okay, and where we and not just our part in a row, but also where are we in this big spinning globe?
And I think, just to sort of butt in there, I think you're absolutely right. And I think, the words I would use there, you're touching on this lived experience. It has to be lived in my experience, whatever, going around in these circles. Waldo Emerson, who I love, Enlightenment American, uh, beautiful man, and he talked about these circles, and to break those circles. He said that, she said this, he went there, you did that, you always do that, those circles that we all go around in and get stuck in, to break those circles and to know, what you're talking about, Mungo, which, acceptance and being able to know that there is, to understand that, there can be a wider perspective on the whole of life. And I think that's what, your brother and this path that you're talking about, and this, the wisdom that's been brought into situations by somebody else's life's experience, who's actually living that. And then you guys can live it too. And I see that working, what you're talking about, in terms of trying to find our way, in this life as human beings.
Yeah, I would agree.
Look, I
And
know you're short of time, Mungo, and we've been chatting here for 20 minutes, so um, yeah, I'm conscious of your time, and just end on this. Just tell me, how does a spiritual life, what does that mean for you right now, right here, right today?
right now, right here, for me today, a spiritual life is being being as the best version of me that I can be. That's being honest. That is being aware of the needs of others. Being humble, being open-minded, willing to learn, to listen, to love, and to do it all on a sort of, a foundation of truth. And that isn't as easy as it sounds every day. In all that, in terms of every bit of that. But that for me is right now, that's a spiritual way of living for me. And then I kind of and that in itself is a sort of basis upon which I can potentially, well, not potentially, I can look to build and expand and you know, develop that. But that's where it is for me today.
Yes, fantastic, Mungo. That's a beautiful way to end this. And from my perspective, you are a beautiful man. You've spoken some beautiful words this morning, and yeah, have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you for your time.
Thank you. Okay.